Sergeant Alfred Walter Hawkins was born on April 26, 1921 in Peterborough, Ontario. His parents, Alfred and Annie Hawkins, had 6 more children: Albert, Wilfred, Douglas, Emily, Clara, and Jean. He was the average student and attended public school until he was 14 years old. After school, he worked in charcoal production for a year and a half, then at a farm in Springville for 3.5 years. Before enlisting, he worked as an electrician, supplying homes with power cables and repairs. He enlisted on May 21, 1942 for military service at the Cannot Reach Training Center in Ottawa. After training for 4 months in Canada, Alfred left for England, where he arrived on October 7, 1942. He was added as reinforcement to the regiment of the Stormont Dundas and Glengarry Highlanders. During his time in England, he met his future wife, Audrey Jean. They got married on December 15, 1943, after being together for a year. On June 6, 1944, Alfred landed on Juno Beach for D-Day in Normandy. D-Day took place on June 6, 1944, after the Dieppe raid, which did not go as expected, but helped with the success of D-Day. During D-Day, 5 beaches in Normandy were used as landing ports. Utah and Omaha were the United States, Gold and Sword were Great Britain's, and Juno was Canada's. Alfred was on Juno Beach with 14,000 Canadian troops, by the armies of Nazi Germany when the battle took place. The battle's code name was Operation Overlord, and over 156,000 troops were on the beaches at the end of the day in June. 4,000 of the Allied troops were killed on the beaches. At the time of the battle, D-Day was the largest naval, air, and land operation in history. Within a few days, more than 326,000 troops, 50,000 vehicles, and 100,000 tons of equipment had landed on the beaches. By August, all of northern France had been liberated, and in the spring of 1945, the Allies had defeated the Germans. Historians often refer to D-Day as the beginning of the end of World War II. After the success of D-Day, Alfred fought his way through Europe with the Glens. On April 4, 1945, they arrived in the neighborhood of Leiston. They faced heavy German resistance and ended with 11 men dead, one of whom being Alfred. All 11 names were placed on the monument at Kirk of Weg in Warnsveld. They all also received streets that were named after each of them. He was temporarily buried at the Roman Catholic Church in Birkenhead, and he was given his final resting place on April 1, 1946, in the Canadian War Cemetery in Holton. Alfred and Audrey had a son, Peter, whom Alfred was never allowed to meet. He was born on February 21, 1945. Peter visited the Netherlands for the 50th anniversary and stood by his father's grave. Peter describes the experience as if they had just met. At the anniversary, a few veterans pointed out his father's name on the monument in Warnsveld. Until this point, Peter believed that his father had died crossing the Rhine in Germany. This newfound information led Peter to search for more details about his father and his life during the war. He ran into all sorts of people from his father's life, one of them being a man who handed him a wallet with a bullet hole. Inside the wallet was Alfred's identification card. The age displayed on Alfred's gravestone in the archives and CWGC were incorrect. They both said that he was 22 years old when he died in battle, but that was false. He was 23, turning 24 just 3 short weeks after his death. But even after 72 years, the gravestone was changed to show his proper age, as well as his file in the archives. Alfred earned many medals during his service in the war. These medals include the 1939-45 Star, the Franz and German Star, the Defense Medal, the Canadian Volunteer Service Medal and Clasp, and the 1939-45 War Medal. I think the investigation of a local soldier helped to reveal that the cost of courage is great and is something that cannot be bought or given away. Being courageous does not always mean putting yourself in a dangerous or life or death situation, but when it comes to war, that is exactly what it means. When you enlist, there is no guarantee that you will be returning home. Of course, you want to keep faith and hope that you will in the end, but it may not happen. Because of this, the cost of being courageous is so great. It is not something that should be taken lightly and disregarded. Without courageous people, our world would not be what it is today. Acts of courage are what help to make a change, but they can also be detrimental to one's life in some cases. Showing courage in order to protect others is one of the most courageous acts someone could perform. The soldiers going into the war are not only going into the war for themselves, but their families, friends, loved ones, and their country. These acts of courage need to be recognized more for every individual who enters these battlefields and gives their life in order for you and me to live better ones. Acts of courage save lives, but they also take the greatest ones. Canadians showed lots of courage through all the wars they were involved in. Whether they were successful or not, Canada continued to persevere, support their allies, and fight for themselves. I believe that Canadian contributions should be celebrated, but the lives lost should be somberly remembered. I think this because without the contributions, our country would not have grown into the beautiful place that it is today. Now, I know many people have different views on our country because of many different things, but deep down, I do believe that Canada has so much beauty. The soldiers who fought day and night in those wars have helped to change the world and our country. I think that these actions should be celebrated, even if they did not always end victorious. They showed selflessness, kindness, and above all, courage, a quality many people strive to have, but it is not something that you can create on a whim. It is something that you have to brew deep inside of you, and once you do, you can be the next person to help make a change. I think that the lives lost during these battles should be somberly remembered and never forgotten. Their names should always be remembered and respected because of everything that they gave to our country. Those soldiers showed pure acts of selflessness, and that is something that should be admired. The courage that they had in order to enter those battles, knowing that they may never see their loved ones again, can never